All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the man who taught me this truth. I would like to say shalom to you, Akim, and you, Fuakwath, you men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. It's your brother Mike Allah, coming at you with another lesson. Through the spirit and power, Yahweh Shemal Washai, Lord willing to edify. And the title of this lesson is simply, The Prudent Shall Keep Silent, you see. And as you can see, constantly, we're continuing in the spirit of prophecy, and we see prophecy is taking place, at a fast rate on a day-to-day basis. The Lord is constantly giving us those signs that we at the end, man, And one of those major signs is going to be that famine of the word, one of those major prophecies, is going to be that famine of the word. Now the words of the Lord are having free course. The prophets are still teaching, giving that warning, you see. But it's not going to continue like this forever, Here it is, you had certain information to come out a couple of days ago in Nicaragua where they're beginning to ban Bibles, which is also what? Prophecy. Because, hey, the words of the Lord then went out, throughout the four corners of the earth, you see. So now we're in a time where the Lord is about to get ready and, draw his word back, you see. Because this was the time for you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, to seek your power while, they could be found, and how is the Lord found? Through his prophets, you see. Starting with our apostles and elders of Great Millstone. But let's go here. It's Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1. It says, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to reign and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak, you see. So we're still in that time of speaking. But it also said a time to keep silent, And that time of keeping silent is fastly approaching, because here it is, the apostles been out over 30 years, and, we've entered into their labors, continuing, to constantly warn through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemal Washai on the plans of the Lord, and the Lord's words were never meant to just, sit in a book and that's it. No, these things must be, manifest. These things must come to pass, So just because, you see, the man out there, just because you see, these videos still going out, it's not going to be like that forever. Because Esau about to get ready and start cracking down, on those that believe, Persecution is going to arise, you see. And you're not going to have men, out on the streets still teaching and warning, No, there's going to be a time to keep silent, Here it is, you got different countries cracking down on hate speech, Online hate speech. That's not by coincidence. No, that all contributes to prophecy, you see? And that all contributes to that famine of hearing the words of the Lord, man. It's Isaiah 62 and verse 6. It says, I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye that make mention of the Lord Yahweh Shemal Washai, keep not silent. You see? So the Lord has set up watchmen. You see? To what? Feed you with this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Day and night. The Lord's words is constantly going out. And that's what leaves you people outside this council without excuses. At the end of the day, nobody's going to be able to say, that they didn't know. You see? Nobody's going to be able to say nothing. Because this was the time to get this truth. It says, and give him no rest till he establish and till he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. And we're not giving the Lord no rest. That's why we constantly do these videos, constantly, go out on the streets and prophesy. That's us not holding our peace day nor night. That's us giving the Lord no rest until he establishes Israel, starting with the elect, on top, so to speak, This is what we waiting on, man. Because unlike you unbelievers, we tired of being at the bottom, man. You stupid jakes are still, worrying about some damn Christmas. You just had your Christmas. You had your Thanksgivings, You niggas about to party it up, hopefully for one last time for New Year's, But you still at the bottom, man. And you cool with being at the bottom. I've had certain jakes to tell me that they don't want to rule over nobody. They don't want to rule. And the Lord is not dealing with that mindset. The Lord is dealing with, those with a ruling class mentality, those that want to see, their enemies and oppressors in subjection unto them, Because that's what's being promoted here is rulership, man. It's Amos 8 in verse 11. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, Yahweh Shemal Washai, power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord, you see? Now, you are going to have, which we are in a process now, of a famine, actual, famine of food, water, resources, But this is not talking about that kind of famine. It just said this is talking about, the famine of hearing the words of the Lord, man. Meaning there's truth being spoken. You see? It says, and they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the words of Yahweh Shemal Washai and shall not find it. Yeah. So it's going to come a time where you're not going to be able to get on YouTube. You're not going to be able to get on Instagram, TikTok, you know, and see men, you know, on the highways and byways, you know, different, you know, personal videos being made. You're not going to be able to have access to these videos of edification. And that's what's going to leave a lot of people, you know, in a state of perplexity. You know, people's not going to know what's going on. You know, they're going to be looking for answers, but you're not going to be able to find them, you know? You're not going to, yeah, it's a lot of people out here that knows that the MOTB is the micro C hip, but they don't understand how to, you know, prepare themselves to escape those times. They don't know when that, you know, time actually present itself. They're not going to have the answers on, you know, how to move, so to speak. Who to trust in, you know? But the answers were given by the mouth of the prophets through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemal Shah, you know? But you're going to run to and fro, you know, to seek the word of the Lord. You're going to seek the prophets who are the carriers of the words of the Lord. But you're not going to find the prophets, man, you know? Because when Esau really started cracking down, you ain't going to be able to find the men of the Lord, man, you know? You're not going to be able to find the men of the Lord. You see? This Amos 5:13, it says, therefore the prudent shall keep silent in that time, for it is an evil time, you see? And that's why you're not going to be able to find the prophets, because it's going to be a very evil, you know, time, you know? And we're in evil times now. But it's going to be way worse in the times to come, you see? Because it's evil now, but the Lord's word is still going forth, you know? But, you know, when that word stops going forth, that's it. Evils are going to, you know, be right at your doorstep, so to speak, you know? And the prudent is going to keep silent, because that's going to be a very dangerous time, you see? That's why, let me get this. It's Isaiah 55 and verse 6. It says, seek ye the Lord, Yahweh Shemal Shah, while he may be found. So this is the time to seek the Lord, man. And you don't seek the Lord by going to church, you know. You don't seek the Lord by becoming a fucking Muslim, you know. Those are false gods that you're serving, you know. You don't learn shit. You don't learn the truth. You're still being taught lies, you know, in these different religions. But you gotta seek the Lord by seeking and hearkening to his prophets. It says, call ye upon him while he is near. See, the Lord is still near. You see? And in order for you, you know, to be stable in these times, you got to have the names. You got to have the names of the Lord. All these thousands of religions out here, and can't none of them tell you the name of the Lord. And it has power behind it, you know? Yeah, anybody could come up with a name, but it doesn't have any power to it. You see? The reason why the planet Earth has changed is because the names Yahweh or Yahweh Shai is being pushed, throughout the planet Earth, man. And that was through our apostles and elders, a great millstone, man. You see? It says, let the wicked forsake his way and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our power, for he will abundantly pardon, you see? And if you want your sins pardoned, and if you want the Lord to have mercy upon you, first you got to know his name. You got to call upon that name and ask for mercy, But you got to also forsake, the ways of this world, which would be celebrating these wicked, celebrations like Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, Got to stop eating pork, Got to stop committing adultery. And you got to turn to the Lord, man. I'm going to close out with this one. Sirach, Ecclesiastes 5 and verse 7, it says, make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed, and perish in the day of vengeance, you see? So make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, man. You see? But Lord willing, that was edifying. I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the men who taught me this truth. Peace and blessings be to the hopeful elect, you men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh